Today is Monday, Parashat Tzav. We call it Monday of Parashat Tzav because this next Shabbat we're going to read Parashat Tzav, but also next Shabbat is called Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat. And it's the title that is given to the Shabbat that comes before Pesach. And why is this called Shabbat Hagadol? What is so great about this Shabbat to call it Shabbat Hagadol? Well, there's more than one reason. But the one that is most commonly given is that the year that the Jewish people went out from Egypt, the 10th of Nisan was on Shabbat, and on the 10th of Nisan they were to take a lamb, to tie it to their bedpost, and to prepare it 4 days before, the 14th of Nisan, when they were to slaughter the lamb and to use it as the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. Now, imagine yourself that in Egypt, the god of the Egyptians was the lamb, was the sheep, the lamb. And the Jewish people took the god of the Egyptians, what represented a deity for the Egyptians, and they were slaves in that country for decades, yet they took the god of the Egyptians to slaughter it. They were asked, what did you do this for? They said, we got to slaughter it to serve our God, to serve Hashem. And instead of the Egyptians attacking the Jewish people for doing that, the exact opposite happened. According to the Midrash, the Egyptians had a war amongst themselves. The Bechorot, the firstborns, were concerned about this next plague that was to take place to smite the Egyptian firstborns, and they were fighting with Paro and his people, saying, please send these people away already. So the great miracle was that even though they took the lamb, which was the god of the Egyptians, and they were going to slaughter it, and it was something that was being announced, still they were spared any harm, and there was an incredible miracle. And that was on Shabbat that happened, and that's why the Shabbat before Pesach, to commemorate that Shabbat that happened before the Exodus from Egypt, that great miracle happened. And it was an incredible statement of victory, of being able to take the God of the Egyptians, to prepare it for slaughtering it as a korban to Hashem, and there would be no harm to the Jewish people. On the opposite, it was a great miracle. So that's one reason. There are other reasons brought why it's called Shabbat Hagadol. Because the Shabbat, just before they went out of Egypt, the Jewish people becoming a nation became like a gadol, like a person becoming bar mitzvah is obligated with the mitzvot. He becomes a gadol. That's what we call him in terms of the status of that person is called a gadol. Also, the Jewish people became a gadol on that Shabbat. They became obligated to follow the mitzvot, mitzvah Korban Pesach. They are also the mitzvah just now because the mitzvah of sanctifying the new month. So they became a gadol. Is another reason that is brought. Apparently, according to kind of a midrash, says there's 7 days in the week. Sunday said he has Monday has a pair, Tuesday has Wednesday, Thursday has Friday, and the Shabbat is somewhat alone, left on its own, and he needed a kind of a mate to be with, somebody to pair up with. And on Shabbat Hagadol, the Shabbat was given Am Yisrael to be a couple together with Shabbat. Shabbat and Am Yisrael come together as a pair. That's why it's called Shabbat Hagadol, because now the Jewish nation is formed and comes together with the Shabbat. And finally, another reason is brought for calling it the Shabbat Hagadol is in the Haftarah. The last verse of the Haftarah says that Hine Anochi Sholech Lachem et Eliyahu Navi Lifnei Bo Yom Adonai Hagadol ve'Hanora. So Hashem sends Eliyahu Navi Lifnei Bo Yom Adonai, before the day of Hashem, Hagadol, the great day. So the word Gadol is used here, so we used the title of Gadol for the Shabbat in reference to the Haftarah. And there is yet another reason given for calling it Shabbat Hagadol, because on this Shabbat, the drasha of the Rav is very long. Typically, the Rabbi would give a very long sermon or a long shiur on all the halachot that have to do with Pesach, and there are many, many subjects to cover. The aspects of chametz, the aspects of how to kosherize utensils to be used for Pesach, the aspects of how to do the seder of Pesach, all the mitzvot associated with the holiday. There are a lot of halachot to go through. There are a lot of perspectives to discuss regarding what is the Yetziat Mitzrayim, what is to be spoken about. And even so, Pesach means to the mouth that speaks. The Haggadah is telling a story, so there is a lot to be said also about this holiday of Pesach. And therefore, since the drasha is very long, we use the word in Hebrew Gadol, which means big. It's a big drasha. And therefore, that's one of the reasons also why the Shabbat that is coming is called a Shabbat Hagadol. So it's a very special Shabbat. It's the great Shabbat that is coming to us this coming Shabbat, just before we prepare for Pesach. Just to remind you also, if you're going to have any Pesach in your any chametz in your possession during the holiday of Pesach, it cannot be used after Pesach. It's forbidden to have it in your possession. Use the forms that we've sent by email to fill out the sale of chametz forms and to return to us before next Tuesday, March 27th. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.